Wait, before you skip ahead and continue, check the timestamps, playlists for other floor sets, check my merch store for Deep Dungeon apparel. Cue the intro. Hello, I am Angelus Demonus, with an updated Dawntrail live tutorial guide for Palace of the Dead solo on Machinist, if your goal is to get the Necromancer title. If you do intend to aim for the Necromancer title, and you have stumbled upon this video but have yet to even unlock Palace of the Dead, I highly suggest you give my how-to Aetherpool Farming and Leveling video a look. While it discusses an optimal method to level your deep dungeon power levels as a solo gamer in general, it will also provide information on how to unlock Palace of the Dead and how to approach it completely solo from the beginning on any job. This live tutorial guide will cover floors 51 to 100, and will showcase the pace of Machinist at level 60, lots of extra bits of deep dungeon info, and a handful of notable mentions that are known to catch newer and first time runners off guard, such as Anzu's in floors 71+, the floor 90 boss, and the floor 100 boss. I will pull every enemy as we climb up, giving the info on what they do, and be sure to watch my movement through the rooms and floors as traps can be a little annoying. I put a very heavy emphasis on the floor 100 boss, and we have inserted 2 extra attempts with a variant of Pomander of Resolution usages, in the hopes it will cover most of the possible scenarios you may run into, which you will find towards the end of this video. I highly suggest gandering at the timestamps in the description below if you wish to look for specific information that may help you or floors you may be stuck on. If you are looking for the other floor sets, be sure to check the playlist on the upper right card or in the description below. A noticeable difference between this guide and the previous ones in Endwalker and Shadowbringers is you'll notice my arm and armor below 99.99 as we had started at floor 1 at 59.59 arm and armor. As we progress through the floors, you'll see the rate in which we gain arm and armor, in the event you are not 99.99 yourself. I would suggest to check the floors 1 to 50 live tutorial guide for context, but I do hope this showcases that you don't have to be at full 99.99 arm and armor to start your Necromancer journey. Another difference between this guide and the previous ones is that I have limited live chat interactions and kept the focus strictly on deep dungeon content. This will play almost like a deep dungeon podcast with gameplay and a couple of viewer questions sprinkled in. I have learned from viewers of previous guides that they like to play along with the video up on another screen or monitor while they do their own run, and it's almost like I'm talking you through the run in real time. If you have any questions on anything that goes on with this run, things I may not have covered, or if you are confused on anything, be sure to leave them in the comments below and I will try to respond as soon as I can. My goal with these guides is to make the grueling challenge of the Necromancer title approachable and viable to all skill levels. No single question is silly, and every single experience is unique. Be sure to keep me posted on how your runs are going. Good luck, have fun, and I hope this guide helps you. Now we're going into the 51 to 60 set. This is the set after, obviously, the 1 to 50, math. But this is also the set that is a good set to farm your arm and armor, if it's like really low. So I do say this on the Aetherpool video that I've made, that like if you were like looking to like just farm arm and armor, maybe for like a weapon or something, this set is the place to go because it's quick, you can solo it pretty well, enemies are not too bad, the boss is not too bad, and it's also like the scaling is very interesting because if you had noticed from 1 to 50, things did get progressively harder, with 41 to 50 being arguably the hardest set. Now the scaling returns back to low, so like you could actually get through 51 to 60 with like literally 10 arm and armor and you'll still be okay, where I wouldn't recommend that like on, let's say, like 21 to 30, like it would be like really low if you're like 10 or something like that. It's possible, it's just gonna take a while. So you'll see the scaling kind of go back down to like a more beginner level, especially because 51 is kind of the spammable floor for people. And then you'll see it kind of rise up little to little. At about 81, it's when it starts to get a lot harder, and 91 for sure it's going to start jumping up. But we'll worry about that when we get there. Let's hop into here. 51 to 60, you'll see it's going to blaze through a little bit faster as well once again. Alright, I'm gonna pop open strength like I have been before. These rooms are going to be a little bit nastier with the traps, so do mind that as you're going through the floor, that you still want to hug the rooms as you're going through. And be a little bit careful when you try to dive into the room while fighting something. The puddings here are proximity, but they are also casters. So one thing that you'll notice with them is that they'll stay in place to cast at you. Deep Eyes here are sight, kind of have a double attack a little bit with that optical intrusion. Animus are sight as well, they are patrols. Here on this floor they only have a conal, so it's pretty easy to dodge. Later they'll have a little bit more of a deadlier attack. We'll have another Deep Eye here. I'll pull a pudding just to demonstrate. Also our first instance of a flight. We're going to use a flight here because we got an extra one. Let me explain the pudding here before we explain the pudding, the flight. So the pudding will be casters. They're going to stay in place unless you line of sight them. So they're going to stay right here. If I line of sight them like this, they have to come at me to get the line of sight to do the casting. So worth noting on that one. As to like, why are they not chasing me? It's because they are casters. Okay, so a flight. What a flight does. Earlier, I have been explaining how average kill count is usually between 3, 4 to like 9 to get off of these floors. Think of a flight cutting that in half. So if you needed between 4 and 9, now you need between 2 and 4. So a flight, no matter how you look at it, is a speed up, but it needs to take a little bit of planning. Like for instance, you'd want to use a flight earlier than later. You want to use a flight when you have time. Whereas let's say you walk into like 181 plus. Let's say you're on 188 and you have 10 minutes on the clock. You're not gonna flight because even though it cuts the amount of enemies that you need to kill, you don't have time to actually do that. So this is a Pomander that will benefit you middle floor a little bit more aggressively earlier on. And that's how you get the most use out of it. But it is a time save. And I would argue on the higher floors, it's essentially as close to a floor wipe as you can consider it. Very, very useful Pomander. And there we're off the floor very quickly. Unless the flight gives you a treasure room. Yeah, then that causes a bit of an issue. We were mentioning how there is I believe, a 3% chance to get a treasure room from a flight based on Delicious Therabound's heavy sample sizing. But, stepped on a trap. Excellent trap right there. That's why you gotta be a little careful. But hey, that's not a bad trap. It's just a trap that does exist. I do have the auto heal disabled. Also reminds me, let me put my max potions on my hotbar since those are the ones that are gonna drop here. So we'll put that in, a better heal that we have, and the best potion that you're going to obtain in Palace. Again, if you're someone that is a veteran of the game, maybe you've come into here doing some of the other deep dungeons or something like that, hyper potions are going to be a little bit superior by a smaller margin, but there is nothing wrong with using max potions at all. You're not missing out, you're not, like, you know, you're not making it less efficient. It is a good option to pick. Go to the next floor. You're consuming PoTD content after dying to 180 on 0.3% on Machinist? No! Yeah, I've been trying to debate, Snowman, when we get to Behemoth, how I want to handle it. Because my other tutorials before have been very meticulous into how I handle it. And really, you don't have to be as meticulous anymore. So I've been trying to kind of think about what's like the more kind of straightforward way to make it look easy or easier, to make it more manageable. We'll see what I got in planned if it's going to help. First instance of an imp, it is sights. They do ice spikes, which by the way are not great. You can't interrupt the ice spikes or just kill them fast enough, but you do want to mine them. Ice spike does reflect damage back to you with the chance of giving you paralyzed. These are going to be more deadlier 100 floors later. So, something to note. Like, right now, they're pretty tame. Later on, not that great. The pots here are proximity. They are going to open with a giant gaze, which is going to give you blind and a big damage if you get hit with it. They are going to be the same as they are on the higher floors. That is a 360 gaze also. So, something that you want to just keep a mind off and just respect it. The blind is really nasty. It's worse than the blind that you get, Great trap. Worse than the blind that you get on the floor, so something worth noting. Got the steal. Doesn't flight round up, so 4-9 would be 2-5, something like that. Yeah, it's something like that. I mean, on the lower floors, it's probably not as high, but... Split Infinity on YouTube says, your guides helped me get Necromancer, but I had to use Finn's Behemoth guide, the Simplicity click... Yeah, his guide with the whole, like, simplifying the hotbar and doing it in that line, it's absolutely brilliant. But that's totally his thing, you know? I'm gonna leave him to that. I'll try to hope that I can kind of explain it a little bit better on my end. But that's also a fair thing. I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, it was very intelligent of him to do, like, that kind of... I don't know if he calls it literally brain dead trap, but he does it in such a way where you just have to hit it in a line and then boom, good to go. Like, I definitely tend to be a lot more detailed. Sometimes it's a little too much detail for someone, and I completely understand that. Great chest, by the way. Looking for that arm and armor and not getting them because they keep exploding, but... Oh, okay, Taurus. So this one is similar to the enemy we fought earlier. They just do a double attack here, but they also do an AoE defense down. Point blank. Not too bad to get out of. Makes it one of the more appealing enemies to deal with here because of that. We accidentally hit the imp here because of the ricochet, but that's perfectly fine. Gonna stop the ice spikes with our interrupt. Moving along the walls to avoid as many traps as we can. Opening the chest and going into the next floor. Alrighty. Opening that steel, that's gonna be good. Damage down is perfectly fine, nothing wrong with the damage down. I think so far we've gotten to all the enemies that have been available. Hugging these walls again as we proceed. Purite. Incoming pot here. 2 proximity enemies here. Got our first instance of Raising. As I mentioned earlier on the set, you will start to get Raising starting on the 51 set. That is when they start getting introduced into Palace of the Dead. And so we got our first one. I'm going to try to mention this a couple times because this is a very common question. But Raising is a way, it's like a get out of jail free card. If you can, I can pop a Raising right now, and if I die on this run with the Raising on, and I get brought back up because of the Raising, we are still eligible for Necromancer. A couple people get a little confused about that, they're not too clear about that, but hey, you know what? Very respectable questions. Like, man, but dying means I lose the run, so like this Raising, is Raising okay? Raising is okay. That's why it exists, to give you that a little bit of insurance. Of course, it isn't very common to get a Raising. You can only have 3. Also worth noting that you don't see Raising past 180. They actually stop dropping from 180 to 200. So it does further kind of make it, you know, more of a luxury item. But it is your get out of jail free card. You can use it to, you know, if death looks imminent and your presence of mind is there, it's like, I'm gonna die, let's pop the Raising, you can at least keep the run going. If anything, if it makes it simple maybe to understand, you only fail a Necromancer title run if you see a literal duty fail or if you disconnect. But if you see the duty fail come up and you see a scorecard, that's it, the run's over, then you have to do a new one. So Soulflayer here, not the most fun enemy to deal with, both on the lower floors and the higher floors. A Mimic instance here, it's okay, because we are going to kite it and we are going to interrupt it. I'll get back to the Soulflayers in a little bit after we deal with this Mimic. Infatuation coming out, we interrupt it, not a problem there. Okay, I'm going to use that Affluence as well, just because I can get some chests going on. Soulflayers are sights. The instance here of the Soulflayers, they're going to do a little bit of casting. They have a point blank as well, which does do a paralyze. But if you actually keep this alive long enough, which is roughly about a minute, or a little bit over a minute, they will do a very nasty weight on you, which actually puts you even slower than walking speed. The only reason why you even run into that is maybe you hit a luring trap and you left one alive, or if you happen to be doing AoE pulls or something, but it does have that in its possession. A lot of times score runners will run into that because you're keeping alive enemies alive pretty long for that to happen, but not something that you probably will deal with on a regular attempt trying to go for a clear. These demon gargoyle dudes, they are going to shoot from afar. They are also sight aggro, so nothing too crazy. On the later floors, they do a little bit something extra, but we'll save that for the later floors. The dolls are patrol. They will open with a double attack after about 5 seconds on the pull, followed by an AoE, I believe, on you. So here's the double attack, boom, AoE on itself, it is point blank. That will do a lot more damage later, but that's typically their kit. Here we want to prioritize the pot because it is proximity and it is blocking the chest. We aggro the Soulflayer, that's perfectly fine. We are fighting in a hallway, and a hallway is safe from traps, so it is very advantageous to fight in hallways. There's that Mind Blast AoE that exists that they do. Just don't stand in it, typical. Don't be in AoEs. The norm. Alright, into 58. We have seen everything now. Those are all the enemies that are available on this floor set. Nothing too crazy, some kind of, you know, notable mentions, but nothing too bad. One reason why this set's really good for that Aetherpool farm, if you wanted to do so. Definitely recommend an Aetherpool farm if you're, like, under 50. Because now, actually, look, our first instance in which the Aetherpool has uncapped. So that means my armor is not at cap, and we could have a higher one if we saw some silver chests. But if you're like 50 and below, this is a really good set to farm your Aetherpool, because you will get a pretty good rate of success. The rate of success is definitely based on kind of the floor that you're on and your current Aetherpool. So if you had noticed, we had opened a number of silver chests on the lower floors, but the chance of me picking them up was pretty abysmal. Like, we didn't get too much of an upgrade. You'll definitely see a lot more upgrades the further and further we go along on this run. And also, at 101 plus, it is guaranteed that you get an upgrade provided that you're not capped. And that's one reason why starting at a lower arm and armor is not that bad, because you'll get those upgrades pretty quickly, assuming that you get to those silver chests. I have a free rage here, and we got a mimic, so we're gonna pop this one. We're also gonna try to get to the other floor, because we can probably find some silvers or some other chests here. This was flighted, so the kill count was really small, but I will still take advantage of getting the chests if it is available. Alright, that's another flight, so that will make the next floor faster. Again, as you notice, we are going a lot faster than the first couple of floors. Because we don't care about those levels. We are pretty good on the Pomanders, just not so much in the arm and armor, but we'll get there eventually. Silver chests are going to be very common as we keep going, so... But it's also a good perspective about where that arm and armor is going to sit as we continue in this run, you know? It could be possible that we don't even have 100 by the time we clear. I'm sorry, 99 by the time we clear, but we'll probably get there with the starting amount that we have. Alright, next floor is flighted. Let's go on. Soon we'll be prepping for the 60 boss. A couple things to note about the 60 boss, but not too bad. There's our upgrade. There's not an upgrade. Fighting in the hallway before we move through. Again, we are not using sustaining potions here. Oh, hi. Oh, we have one more, the Archdemon. This is proximity. Also, in this floor, it will do the same moves as it does on the higher floor, but it's Abyssal Transfixion, which is like a double attack here. Which it doesn't do here. It doesn't do here, but on the... Oh, there it is. That's the Abyssal Transfixion. On the higher floor, it will give you a Paralyze, which is pretty nasty. On the lower floor, it just does damage, but it's not too bad either. I will kill this. Oh, I keep hitting traps, man. On those walls, but even when you do, it doesn't matter. You still hit your traps, so you gotta be careful. That's why it's always nice that you get into a room first, and then, after you kind of figured out how the safe spots are, then you pull something. Like, it would be really bad if I had something on me and then hit the landmine, because I could be running the risk of actually dying. The 60 boss. Some things to note about this boss. First, we're going to open with a Lust here. Opener Lust. This guy will hit pretty respectably hard. So if you're running here without any sustaining potions, you do kind of want to rotate your heals in some fashion. I open with Tactician here. We're opening with the Lust so we can kill this a little bit faster. It will have quite a lot of double attacks, including a puddle, which we want to move out of. Luckily, as a physical range, we are always in motion. This puddle will do a dot. It will do initial damage on the hit, and then it'll do a dot here. You'll see orbs on the ground followed by a knockback. Ideally, just get knocked back into a safe spot, or just get knocked back into a wall where there is no orbs. Worthy to note on this particular boss, unlike its counterpart 100 floors later, those orbs do have a little bit of a variance of when they explode. So if you're kind of like timing the knockback into a certain location and you're like standing on top of the AoE, there can be a chance that the AoE just goes off before you actually get knocked back. So just the safest method, just find a safe spot and go boom. There is also a little bit of a glitch with this that sometimes shows up. I'm gonna see if it does it now. I don't think so. Chances are, sometimes you'll see a bit of a glitch, which I don't think they fixed. But sometimes these balls don't actually show you the telegraph, and that can be a little spicy, so you just want to stay away from them. I'm actually going to run through one more rotation here, and we're going to see if that, if it does it this time, because I tend to see it. I just don't know what triggers it. So let's go through one more rotation to see if we can actually demonstrate the no telegraph orbs. But yeah, sometimes those orbs will still do the same exact damage, the same exact move. It's just the telegraphs don't show up. And so if you're like, you know, focusing on where how big those telegraphs are and everything, that can definitely throw you off. Okay, let's see if it happens here. Maybe not? Nope, not this time. Okay, we'll just kill it now. But definitely something to keep in mind. I have seen it before. I don't know what triggers it. You do have a lot of real estate to go to find a safe spot, so just play it really safe. Kill this boss. Ideally, Strength and Steel like I have on now, especially if you're not running any sustaining potions. There you go. That is the 60 boss down. Alright. Let's hop straight into 61 to 70. Here, 61 to 70 is going to be what we like to call Jurassic Park, as Darth said earlier. It is a lot of dinosaurs. There's a mixture of a lot of sight enemies, a lot of proximity enemies. The dinosaurs do a lot of double attacks here. They're not going to be too treacherous here. On the higher set, they are going to be a little bit more dangerous, but they're not going to be too bad. So let's hop on in. 61 plus. We're going to open with the strength as we have been, but I'm going to chill on the steel. Jurassic Park, that's right. Raptor here is one of the easier ones to handle. It is a sight enemy, does only a conal. Actually, I think this one in particular does a circular AoE, not a conal. Switching, the alligator will do a conal. Pretty easy enemy, doesn't do any double attacks, really nice to deal with. Very big. Got a couple raptors here, so we'll just take them out. I'm gonna wait, hold, Mississippi hold, and then pop the chest here. Got the upgrade, very good. Popping another raptor over here. Got the rage, but we might be out on this kill, so I'm just gonna chill on that rage. You can totally use it, but we only have 3 rooms here, and we probably don't need to use it. We're out already. Alright, let's go next floor. Next floor is Flighted. I'd argue the enemies here are actually a little bit more tame than the previous set. The previous set has a little bit more stuff to them. You know, more status here, a little bit complicated mechanics here. These are very straightforward. They just come at you and just melee you. They do hit you a little bit harder, but not too bad at all. Raptor chilling over here, and we get the trap. So we already hit him, but it also hit the enemy as well. So we're just gonna drag this enemy with us as we try to explore the room. It'll be a 30-second debuff for both of us. So he's gonna auto attack, I'm gonna auto attack. We'll just keep going here. This is Flighted, so there's not much going on. I got the Affluence, so I'll use the Affluence here to see if we can pull up more chests. Again, we're kind of looking for silver chests because our arm and armor is not capped right now. If your arm and armor is in fact capped and you're at 99, you can definitely like kind of, you know, ignore the silver chests. You don't really have to go for them. I'm going for them for the upgrades, especially because we started at a lower arm and armor. $65, we're getting those upgrades in going in. Very nice. Alright, next floor. Flying through into 63. Alright, another case of the Wyvers. The Wyvers are going to start to get progressively harder. They do the same thing that they did earlier. They would just melee with a double attack. They're obviously dead because we did a reassemble drill on them, but something to, you know, keep in mind that these guys are going to be a little bit harder. The Tyrannosaur is going to be one that does a double attack plus a point blank. These are going to be deadlier later on as well. It also sounds like they hit you pretty hard, but not too bad overall. Doing other affluence here. Did I purposely tank my Aetherpool? I did. So Rupin, my thought process here for this live tutorial was to produce and showcase a lower entry point for Necromancer. Because I remember I talked about this earlier in the stream too, how I got a YouTube comment where someone was like, well, you already have your full arm and armor and you already have a couple potions, but maybe you should have done it as like more of a beginner thing, you know, what if you're just starting off? And I'm like, okay, I probably did mention, hey, you probably want to have this starting off and blah. Like, I think I did mention, like, you know, you probably want to have, there was a couple expectations going into the run, but it was still a fair comment. So I thought with this live tutorial, let's bring down that level of entry where I know for a fact that you can start at a lower arm and armor and still be okay, and you're probably going to cap out later on too. And we also dipped our Potchers and Sustaining Potions to a much lower number to also accommodate for someone maybe hopping into it very fresh into the content. Here we have an Elbest here, who is a patrol, psyched, does a roll down like this and also can do a conal. Not too deadly here, a little bit annoying on the higher floors, but that's that bold. But yeah, so that was why we dipped our arm and armor on purpose, to kind of give that initial impression of like, oh, okay, well, my arm and armor isn't that high, so we're there. Or maybe you're at 99, and maybe that gives you a little bit of confidence, you know? So. Got the Rage. I'm gonna check these rooms because I do want to get that silver chest. Okay. That is no silver chest. We have another Affluence rolling in. And hopefully my assumption here is that we'll probably get 99, I'm guessing by about 140 to 160. But it's not going to be too big of a deal. Now, the other reasoning, there's like two reasonings here, okay? That's a +3, by the way. We got a +3 on that armor. There's two worlds of thought in terms of the arm and armor. The reason I picked 59, and the reason I'm making that assumption about you know, kind of a starting entry point is, let's assume that the runner is probably gonna need one or, like, two or more runs to get it cleared. So if you start your run at 59, hey, get the experience, get as much as you can, see how far you can go. And then you're gonna see your arm and armor is going to climb while progging the content. So it doesn't have to feel like you need to prog the content at 99. You know, because that's all even more work to get it all prepped up and everything. So you can actually prog at a lower number. Alternatively, someone who may be, you know, one of those guys who like absorbs information really well, looks at the videos, applies some of the videos, and that kind of learner, I would say at a 59 start, that's not bad for those people that may actually clear on their first attempt or second attempt, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't recommend starting lower than, like, 59, especially on a first-time attempt, even if you're progging. Like, maybe the lowest I could probably recommend is, like, 49, but you still want to give yourself at least a little bit of a boost, especially if you find yourself on the higher floors, because it would really suck if you're, like, 50-50 on, like, 160, you know? So at least having a bit of a starter kit does actually help a little bit. But I do hope that kind of makes it a little bit more approachable in a way, because maybe there is an intimidation factor of having the full 99. And nowadays, especially with the way Deep Dungeon is, that the further and further away you get from it becoming relevant content, you know, maybe people are approaching this content for the first time. Maybe they completely skip the content as they were trying out the game. No one told them about it and never ran into it. It isn't mandatory at all to do. And like they're coming back to it realizing it's hard to get a queue because no one's doing the content. So approaching it from like the solo kind of vibe to it, if you will, that you can do the entire thing by yourself, you don't have to have people, is kind of where I'm approaching it as well. Here we got the crocodiles. They are psyched. These guys later on are going to be pretty annoying. These have telegraphs, but their later versions 100 floors from now will not have telegraphs, so something to note. Now, someone was talking about an exit room. Oh, what happens if the exit room is in the treasure? If the treasure room is in the exit? Well, we want to carve our way to open up the exit. So in this particular situation, let's say I don't want to bother with the room to the right and I just want to get to the exit here. We need to kill things that are surrounding the exit. So first target is this wyvern. This wyvern is proximity, and he is right on top of the exit. So no matter what I do, we are going to have to fight that wyvern and kill it. So let's take care of it now while we're building into the exit. Now let's take a look at what the exit's looking at now. I would say the second wyvern that's back there is probably close enough to the exit, so he has to go as well. So we're going to pull him first and get him out of the way. Now the croc that's here on the left side of me, not the one in the middle but on the left side, will probably be on a next pull because it is around the exit, so we're going to clear him out. So now the exit kind of looks a little free, outside of that Palace Blade. That Palace Blade is going to be, I don't think it's a patrol here, maybe it is, I can't remember. But this one's a lot easier. This one just does a couple AoEs forward and back. We have a nice little strategy that we do on the later floors with him, but we won't get that far on this one. But this is a really nice enemy to fight. And there we go, we're out. And so we left a couple enemies on this side of things. Might get that crocodile though, although it's like moving towards me. I think we will. Let me actually kill that croc first. But we cleared out the room. Didn't have to kill everything in this room. We cleared out to open up the exit there. Alright, let's go. Unless you're a mega gamer and one-shot the title, I think you'll be full on both anyways. But the thing, that's where my approach comes in. Where like, you know, take away some of that farming. Like, let's try to approach it where you don't have to actually farm or pre-farm to prepare for Necromancer as much as maybe we had implied. You can try to just hop on in, like, boom, right from there. I want to go Necromancer, I've never unlocked Palace. Just try to make it so that you don't have to spend that extra time to make that dream happen, you know what I mean? That's the whole thought there. And I hope so, and I'm hoping the tutorial will showcase that, you know? It all comes down to the results of this run, to see where we sit on that Aetherpool as we're climbing up. Another silver chest that I'm going to go for because we do want that upgrade, and we are getting some decent upgrades now. We started on 451 to 60 with like 62, 61, and now we're getting some decent upgrades. Of course it explodes, but you know, what can you do? Triceratops, the first appearance of the Triceratops. In terms of the dinosaurs, this would be the heaviest hitter. Not too treacherous at the moment, but on the next set, 161, 100 floors from now, those will be a little bit spicy. But definitely something to be concerned about eventually. Keep it in the bank, memory bank for later. They are basically wyverns, just hit harder, if that makes sense. They hit slightly harder. Okay, going into 67. And I believe we've seen everything on the floor now, or there might be something else. Oh. Birds. I think birds are gonna be here. Diplos up here, they're proximity. I don't think I've talked about the Diplos yet. They are proximity, so you will have to take care of them. Their later versions will cast a stone skin on them, which you can interrupt, but these guys are just gonna do, I believe, paralyzed, so it's not too bad. Hey, congratulations! Was that the title clear, by the way? Congratulations. That is what we hope to get. that people can get those clears with the information that we're putting out. I'm hoping this guide will be better than the guides we put out before, so that people can get those clears like yourself. Alright, so these two have to... Actually, the three have to go. They're all proximity, they're all on top of the exit, so we do have to kill them. That's one thing, eventually, when we get to the higher floors, we'll talk about a little bit of kill efficiency and how to get off with a good amount of time. I mean, right now, we're certainly not worried about time, not even the least bit. But, it will matter on those later floors. Okay, Gloom and no sprints. But this is flighted, and we do have a rage, so we'll definitely take advantage of that. I won't do a safety here. There's the Pteranodon, or the pterodactyls. They aren't too special. They are, in later floors, they are patrols. They'll just do AoEs on you. Nothing too complicated at all. We just hit a trap, which is perfectly fine because we are in a rage. No big deal here. A convenient time to do that. I'm gonna pop... Oh, that's not the right button. That's okay, we'll make it up. I wanted the surrendering. We'll make up that rage, no big deal. Little bit of a misclick there. Let's hit there. Or actually, I think I just made it up already, because I think the rage is in the opening. See? Never punished, guys. Never punished. 66, very good. I got punished there, though, because I forgot the traps were existing. Alright, 2 ages, boom. No problem. Mylodon Patrol. We haven't talked about these guys. These guys will just do a little bit of an AoE here. I think they throw a snowball at you. I'm not sure if these guys do, but they will do a conal. There's a slow ball. Later floors, that will not be a telegraph. It's just, they just toss it. A little low damage, nothing too crazy. Alright, so now I believe we've seen everything on this floor set. I would say, again, these enemies are a little bit more tame than the previous set, in my opinion. So. Alright, safety is gonna be nice. We will want to pop that steel for the boss, so I'm gonna pop it already. I think we have to repop the strength because it will fall out soon. Just for the sake of this guide, we are gonna try to have a strength steal for every boss moving forward. You can definitely get away without doing the strength, especially on this boss. But if you're kind of running with like a lower amount of pot shards and you don't have a lot to spare, you definitely don't want to extend the fights any longer than you need to, because that means you will run into a situation where you probably have to start to use them because the fight's kind of taking a little bit longer. So in this instance, we are going to probably strength just so we can get through the floor. But again, it is to your own. I mean, you don't have to. The bosses are not that difficult at all. It's all about trying to make it through with the limited resources that we have. I may be able to get off, though, without having to use that strength. So we're going to go through now. I'll have about a minute and a half of the strength. Alright, gonna open with the Lust here, still staying away from our sustaining potions just for a demonstration in terms of conservation of those potions. We'll rely on Second Wind, and we will rely on Max Potion. This guy just does a couple tank busters, a couple AoEs. One of the most important things here is that it will self-buff itself with a puddle. And we need to take it away from the puddle. Look at its buffs right now. When the douse goes off, it'll give itself a buff. A haste. When it takes it away from there, it is gone. So the mechanic of this fight is you want to take him away from that buff. Now here, I would have a sprint, but I didn't have it available. That's perfectly fine. Actually, it's coming up here. Alright, you can sprint and run away from this AoE. If you don't have sprint, then you can't run away, you get hit with it. But on this floor, no big deal. It doesn't do that much damage. It is a little bit of that wombo combo. Also worth noting, this puddle on the ground against traditional conventional knowledge does not do anything to you. It's just a floor buff for the boss. So I can stand on this, I can do whatever I want. It's not doing anything to me in particular. You just need to get the boss off of that puddle. So you can totally walk through it, just keep that in mind. It's kind of nice to know. Also, see the really neat reflection from, I think that's a graphic update thing. The reflection of the enemy's radial. That's a really cool thing to look at. Look at that. See that? That's a cool reflection. I like that. Anyway, this boss is not too bad at all. I would say this boss is a lot more tame than 160. Because 160, he just kind of comes at you. This one is not too bad. It'd be a little bit more complicated later, but that is the 70 boss. So there you go. Alright, that's 70. Let me catch up here. Dank2 on YouTube said, wow, talk about a coincidence, and on my first real attempt, Machinist floor 110. Good luck, dude. We are updating the guide, Dank. Hopefully we get this all in, and I get to post it up, and hopefully it'll help people like yourself get that title. Snowman says, my Necro arc has been dying in 73 Sage, 79 Machinist, 180 Machinist, try Picto. Let me know what you think of Picto, Snowman. I am very, very much considering a live tutorial for Pictomancer. And it's mostly because it seems like that is a very, very popular job. And I'm not really advertising the job that much. I mean, I'm showcasing how cool it is, but it seems like people are picking it up. Maybe it is being talked about, and I'm seeing lots of people taking Pictomancer right now. And they're having fun with it, and they're sticking with it. So I think I will do a live tutorial sometime in maybe less than a month. So definitely look forward to that. As long as we get this one done, and I'll work on that second one. Oops, sorry. A cat says, if a cat's still here, I'm half serious about clearing Heaven on High my first time in there, which is still possible because my first attempt file still exists, having cleared 430, but I'm afraid to go back. You got it, dude. A cat, you got it, man. All good. Just go in there, die the first floor, get it out of the way. But that's, you know, it's the nature of the beast. Hey, Ryukin, how you doing? How are you doing, Will? And Mia earlier, if you're still here, thank you for saying hello. I hope you're doing well. Let me see if I caught up anything else. Nope, okay, we're good to go. Let me hit a snooze here, and let's step into the next set. Again, I do thank you guys for watching, for being here. I am not talking in between floors. I'm sorry, I'm not talking during the floors, although if you say something Deep Dungeon related, I will think about if it can relate to the conversation. But I will catch up in between floors here, so... Mr. Sig, being my... It's... Oh, okay. Thanks, Sig. Okay. I'm happy to oblige, man. You're right, I switched... Yeah, it's a service. I need to start charging, you're right. I should. I may only get to 120 today. I really took a long time on those early floors. How do you deal with the anxiety of losing all the progress you make in Deep Dungeon? That's a really good question. You know, for me, Dank, you know, when I was doing my initial prog, I just had the goal in mind. It was like the carrot in front of me, right? No matter what I did, I wanted to get this carrot. If it meant I had to reset the run and go back in, it is what it is. I think even early on, I had recognized... And bear in mind, when I did Necromancer for the first time, and Lone Hero for the first time, there wasn't information to go to like you have now. There aren't guides, there aren't DD Compendium, there aren't the creators that are out there. We had to make it up as we go in. So for me, it was just like, okay, well, if I wanted this thing, then I have to just go in and learn. So I took every attempt as a learning experience, right? You die to this stupid thing, you die to that stupid thing. You learned something that you didn't know was even a thing, you know? But you just took it as a learning lesson. It's like, okay, back in. We learned something, let's go back in. And that's what it came into. I think to me, the only thing that started to get to me early on was when I wasn't making progress. Was when I got stuck on like the 181 set and I wasn't getting further run after run. That's where it started to get a little rough. But again, my era was when I was chasing impossible. No one had cleared at the time. So you don't even know if it was even possible. Like now, of course you do. Like people have done it hundreds of times by now. But for me, it's always the takeaway that you're learning something. That every run teaches you a new strategy, a new limit, a new use of something, you know? And, you know, if you've played any roguelites before, the whole genre of the game is that it's meant that you're supposed to die at some point and then learn from that experience and go back in. I remember the definition that they gave for a roguelite was that dying was satisfying, you know? That you get to a floor, you die, and you're like, I learned something. Okay, let's try it again. You know, that's the feeling that you typically should get from the experience. At least you have to kind of approach it like that. I was only meant to get to 150. I made it to 160. You know, you beat your PB or something, but you know, you didn't know what was supposed to be in front of you. You knew everything behind you, but everything past that was a new experience. So, you know, you try not to put so much expectation for you to do something that you hadn't done before. But then as you keep going and climbing your way through little by little, that's how you kind of convince yourself, you know? And that's, I think, where the drive comes in to go back in. Because I think your sentence is interesting because, you know, you said it as, you know, how do you feel about losing all the progress? But the reality of the matter is you didn't lose any progress. You lost floors. Like, okay, you dumped at 160, so 160 floors are poof gone. But you really didn't lose progress because you learned something on the way. You like your pawn management, you lose the pawn management. You learn how to deal with more enemies. Maybe you limit tested, like I said. So progress was in here, in the mind, about how you did better. So that didn't go away. That was not a loss. That was a gain, you know? So that's how you kind of have to look at it. What about dying in a file that had great RNG? It is what it is, right, RMX? I mean, RNG is RNG, you know? You have a good one. I mean, I've dumped a lot of runs before when I thought the RNG was really good. But that's one thing that's been very interesting. That's one thing that was very interesting with me going in and doing lots of runs, of having a consistency of clearing, because you start to understand that RNG is a factor, but there is other things you can do to beat out RNG. You know, like the old, I don't hear this as much anymore, but people talking about how it's almost like a meme. It's like, oh, I want to get Necromancer, and then someone's like, oh, just get lucky enough and you'll eventually get it, you know? Like the whole idea that it is based on RNG. But my response to that is like, well, what about, like, you know, Mr. Omnivas who's here and a lot of the other veterans here who can go in and clear like 20 in a row on like their best job? Like, are you gonna say that they just got lucky 20 in a row? Like, you don't just get lucky 20 in a row. Like, I'd understand, like, maybe Rupin was talking about, you know, maybe you just gamble your way to the top. Fair. I mean, okay, RNG fell on your side, but the reality is you can't get so good at the content that you do create consistency no matter what the game gives you. And that is, like, to me, the big argument about, you know, that RNG really affects the run. I mean, really, also, like, you know, it is in essence like a roguelite situation where you do have like the base foundation of the game and the player's skill, and at some point there needs to be a balancing in the middle. That's how you end up getting the clear, right? So the better you get at the content, the more chances you have of clearing it. So there is a thing that does happen as you learn the content, as you go through it, that you will get better, and then you will start to have consistency. How's Machinist so far? No, actually, Machinist on Palace of the Dead is pretty much like just the same ladder. So I don't, there's like no difference to me. Like, nothing feels different, nothing hits harder, nothing hits less, nothing dies faster. It's just the same. 71 plus. 71 plus, we're gonna start to see our first instance of Anzus, which are everyone's least favorite enemies. And a couple more kind of dino type enemies here. So that's what you're gonna walk into for this set. And we'll describe all of them as we pull in. Alright. Let's do our opening strength like we have been earlier. And in actually this case, I'm going to open with a steel. There's a reason I'm going to open with a steel here, because we'll do a little bit of a demonstration. Hello? Okay, let's go. I didn't know these Anzu did their stun dive. Yes! It is HP percentage, that is correct. Alright, first instance, the wolves do heal themselves back a little bit. They're not the most fun to fight. They are side aggro. The bears, on the other hand, are also just side aggro. They do a conal, so not too bad at all. Pretty easy to fight. Now the Anzu, just like Mr. Ross was talking about. So the Anzu on the higher floors, they are on a set rotation. They'll do a wind burn, and then a couple seconds later you'll expect the belly flop happening right now. This one, however, doesn't quite do it until you get them to a lower HP value. So this is one reason I have the steal on right now. So we can stand here forever and have this like standoff with this Anzu. It's never gonna do it until you dip it low enough, which I believe is below 30. There's the stun. I have seen this Anzu in particular, we're not talking the 171 Anzus, but this one in particular actually drop a gamer because they didn't have steal on, they didn't expect that to come in, and they were fighting something else. So the stun on top of the Vulm down just created a disaster, and they killed him. So one thing to probably do with an Anzu, which we can actually demonstrate here, backload your damage. So I'm going to pull this thing, we'll get it to like 50%, and then let's burn him here when he's lower HP. So we don't have to deal with the that dive in. And he will have to commit to a wind burn before he does the dive in. So something to note. Second instance of a special enemy. We had one earlier. It doesn't do any it doesn't do any AoEs, it doesn't do any telegraphs. It does only auto attacks. It is a lore special enemy based on NPCs and stuff that you fought in the game. Worth noting here, since I have the opportunity, they are so special, when you try to witching them, they cannot be witching. They are immune to witching, so something to note. So, they are proximity. They are also vulnerable to resolution. They are considered undead. So that's another thing. If we get to demonstrate that, if we happen to run in yet another one, I'll try to see if we can do a resolution. But that is those special enemies that you see. In terms of like some other small details, they do give an enormous amount of extra points if you kill them. They have a high chance of dropping a chest just like a Mimic. And yeah, they are very rare to see. So actually seeing 2 is a lot, because I typically go through runs and I don't even see any, so it's very lucky. Alright, another Mimic here, no problem. We have our interrupt available, so we're not too worried about that one. And it's dead before it even gets to its infatuation. Another flight. I believe I flighted this floor. More Anzus here. Bandersnatch do double attacks. They will be deadlier later, but nothing too spectacular. They are sight aggro. Alteration, I won't use it. We'll do the Anzu here. Again, we want to watch out for it, because if it's kind of burst, it will do it after Windburn. But I killed it when it did Windburn, so it didn't get a chance to do the thing. There's our first case of the Resolution. As mentioned, Resolution starts on this set. Raising starts on the previous set. So in case you're wondering when they show up. Alright, we got the Wolf again, Bandersnatch. Seeing if there's another chest here, don't see it. I thought this was fighted actually, but I guess not. Bear. Checking this chest here. Safety, I'll just use it. Oh, okay. Bear in mind, our armor is not capped at the moment, so we are operating at a lower armor than you would typically have if you are capped. We're still doing pretty good amount of damage. Blind again, love the blind. Safety again, which is great. Don't have to deal with traps, especially on these type of floors. You've already seen me step on a lot of traps, even though I was kind of next to the wall. The Elizin, I mean the Domel, they are proximity. And nothing too deadly here. They just do a conal. They also do buff themselves a little bit later. I will do a rage here because it is blinded. It is a flighted floor, but it is a free rage, so I'll just take it. Again, I mentioned this earlier. Transformation Pomanders, Resolution, Lust, Rage. They do not miss in a blind. Your regular GCs can miss, these transformations cannot miss in blind, so it's really useful to know that. A bit of a way to kind of get past the blind floor if the situation kind of presents itself. Definitely need those silver chests. Oh, respawn. We'll get all the way back to the rage, we'll check all the chests as well. Flight again, I'll take it. Exploding chest, kaboom. Sight. Don't need it. Serenity. I'll use it if I have to do a pull. Intuition. Intuition good if you want the monies, but I don't currently care, so we're not really popping those right now. Got the second resolution, which is great. We'll need that on the later floors. Rage is there, and I don't think I checked this one. Steel! Okay, good. Alright, let's get to the exit. Moving right along. I think I can avoid it. This is Sight, if I didn't mention. Get right behind them. Okay, 74. I might start seeing some newer enemies, although we have a Rage, so that'll make life a little bit easier. Cyclops, they are patrols. They are Sight aggro. They will start with a donut, and then go into a point blank. Eye of the Beholder is their first move. Sasquatches here will buff themselves, but they don't do kind of the big damage like they do on the later floors. They will do their right banana, which buffs themselves, but that's about it. Nothing too special. Okay, going here for Chin. Raising, got the second Raising, which is really good. Safety, which I will use since we avoid a couple of them. Potsherd, very important considering we're working with a limited amount of potsherds, and now we've picked up 3, one of which was the guaranteed potsherd, so that is huge in terms of the run. Pop that strength. Let's go to the next 4. Okay. 60, 75. Steel. Strength. Nice start. You heard the apes kind of going bananas over there. We'll go with the Cyclops here. I'm gonna just pull it normally so you can see the Eye of the Beholder first. It'll be a conal here. I'm sorry, conal. It'll be a donut. Stay in the middle. You'll avoid the attack coming in. It doesn't do that much, but again, it is its first move most of the time. There's the point blank on that one. Going with the ape here, he has the attack bonus, but again, he's not going to do anything special with it. He's not going to hit me as hard as the higher floors. He'll do stool pelt, but that's about it. Nothing too crazy. The wild, I'm sorry, the Palace Aurochs are going to do a point blank here. So nothing too crazy on that one. Oh, Cyclops. Going into the exit, let's go. Alright, going into 73. Alright, 76 going into here. I think you might start seeing some new enemies, but yeah, the enemies aren't really too crazy here at all. You do have the Bird of Palace. This, by the way, this can kill you. This thing does a circle AoE. If you get hit with Revelation, this is going to give you a 30-second Hysteria, and you cannot do anything about the Hysteria, and I believe he will just actually cycle through it. And I don't think the Hysteria has a diminishing return. So if you get hit with that, there's a very good chance you're just wiping the run. So just be very respectful of that move when it does use it. Fortune, Stool Pelt, dude over there, Cyclops over here. Alright, we're gonna pull the Damel, the Elizin, as I will call it. Just moving along, hugging these walls. First case of the Curl. The Curl are side aggro, and they will open with Mega Blaster, which can give you a Paralyze. These guys are a little bit more tame. The later versions of them will actually do a Paralyze regardless, and they'll just plant it on you because that's just what they do. But on these ones, they just have that Conal Mega Blaster, so nothing too crazy on that one. Alright, to the next floor. Alright. And another Rage. This has been a pretty fortunate floor right now. Like, you're just seeing me zoom through. But, hey, this is our advantage of having full Pomanders as we're going through. When you get those extras, there is some benefit to doing it. You know, it took a little bit to get to this point if you were playing the conservative game. Again, I do kind of recommend, like, you can go a lot more aggressive, keep things at 2 instead of 3, but for the first-time runner, trying to go for Necromancer for the first time, trying to explore the place for the first time, it's not a terrible thing just to kind of be a little bit more cautious, conservative, so on and so forth with your Pomanders. It's just as you get more used to it, as you feel like you want to go faster, and push your limits, so on and so forth, you can be a little bit more aggressive. But, you know, you want to learn what things do. You want to know the extent of what these power-ups are going to give you. So going through this kind of exploration situation, no big deal at all to do it this way. $78, getting close to the boss. The boss here is going to be Baby Behemoth. And it's gonna be definitely a teaser to the real Behemoth, which is the one that terrifies most runners, but at least you get a little bit of a preview on the smaller version first. Alright, let's see if we have any other new enemies that I haven't talked about yet. Not quite. The silver chests have been a little low, so granted the palms have been interestingly useful at the moment. There's also an example of that Seismic Rift hitting me. Not too bad, even when it crit, so nothing to be too worried about. The silver chests have been a little slacking, so this might actually be a really good example for people trying to go at a lower armor. You know, it would be, like, I would say good RNG is not good for you guys. If I got good RNG, I want you guys to have good RNG. I don't want myself to have good RNG. Because seeing me in trouble and having to figure my way out is exactly what you want to see. But at least the silver chests have been a little slacking at the moment, but it's okay. We'll see how the thing goes. Alright, a lion. The lions here will do pretty much the same as all the lions. It'll open up with a bit of a double attack called Mark of the Beast. Or this one is Pounce. And then it'll start with an AoE Cry. AoE Cry is a long cast, and just let him do its cast and just dump damage on him as he's doing that cast. They are going to be a little treacherous on the later floors, but they're not too bad as a machinist, so on and so forth. Okay, question from Davy. How do I deal with deep dungeon anxiety? Definitely pertinent to, you know, our conversation here with the deep dungeon run and etc. It's actually a very good question, and I think deep dungeon anxiety is going to be different for different people. Some people will get hit with it really hard. We already had someone earlier in our chat being scared to walk back in after some time, you know? Because I think the biggest and most simplest reasoning for that to happen is just you're scared of failure. I think that's what it comes down to, right? You're scared of failing, you're scared of having to go back, of having to waste time, whatever it might be. But I was kind of talking about this earlier, in between sets and everything, about, you know, how do you not feel bad about losing progress on the run? When you go to like a high floor, you die in the file, how do you not feel bad about that? But the thing that I was mentioning was more along the lines of, like, you gotta take it as everything as a learning experience, right? You're experiencing something that you may not have experienced before. So yeah, maybe you could have prepped yourself to know what that situation and result was beforehand. But sometimes you just gotta learn something on the spot. Sometimes you just have to experience it right there and then for you to know what to do next time. And you know, to me, everything, you just kind of twist it all into a learning experience, you know? Or even think of one way, it's like you're bound to die. You just try to last as long as possible, and then it is what it is. You die, but the next time you go back in, hopefully you learned your lesson and you don't do that same mistake again, you know? A thing I like to say is that in Deep Dungeon, you can only make so many mistakes, you can only die so many times. And when you actually run out of ways to die, then you're just gonna win, because you figured them all out, you know? And yeah, there could be lots of ways to die, but a lot of times I feel like many players, even if they are novices, amateurs, ultimate raiders, whatever it might be, I think the progress here in Deep Dungeon is so interestingly quick. Because if you go and die to something in like floor 180, or no, like 181, you make this like horrendously bad mistake, like you mismanage your palm, you misclick something, you forgot a raising, right? Common things of ways to die. Man, that festers in your mind. You know, it's like it just eats away at you. You're like, I can't believe I did this dumb thing in this run. Like, why did I even do this? And maybe you talk yourself into it. Maybe you like go into this whole blown like just like feeling about it. But all of that emotion that you're getting from that one experience, it sits in you. It festers in you. And therefore, it's probably the biggest learning lesson that you've given yourself right there. Because you get back to that situation, you're probably not going to die to it again. You know, if that makes sense. Let's talk about Behemoth first before I continue that conversation. This is Baby Behemoth. He will do very similar mechanics to Daddy Behemoth, but it's not too bad. You're gonna see me kind of position this in a little bit of a certain way. We also open with Lust here because I really don't matter and don't really care about how this fight goes. I'm gonna be passing and parking these circle AoEs on the east and west as opposed to like kind of a certain way. I kind of use these little corners here to park it as well, because Behemoth in this fight will be moving east and west, not north and south like the bigger Behemoth on 180. So I'm kind of favoring the position here in terms of when he does that trounce. So the very first time he does it, he's going to the east with that move. And then the next time he does the trounce, he's going into the west side. Again, we are still avoiding using some sustaining potions, but, you know, we're trying to just keep it minimal in terms of that. So yeah, I hope that made sense in a way. I think everyone is going to get anxiety with this content, but I think the biggest thing that I feel like is an asset to anyone trying to do this is you only have to answer to yourself, you know? I think not to put down raid content or to say that it's inferior or whatever it might be. It's a different piece of content. But when it comes to raid, sometimes there's anxiety, and people talk about tank anxiety in dungeons and everything. I think the anxiety for that is like two factors. Aside from wanting to perform well, you don't want to let other people down. You don't want to like show people that you're not up to snuff. But then it doesn't help when you run into other individuals who kind of put you down as well. Like, oh, you could have played better. Oh, you could have did this. Like, you know, I think a lot of us are very hard on ourselves to begin with. It's like we don't need other people to tell us that we're doing a bad job. It's like, I get it, or I'm doing a bad job, I need to be better. But I think with the solo content, that's where maybe it can be mitigated a little bit, because you only have to look at the mirror and answer to yourself, you know? By the way, Behemoth does Meteor here at 10%, not 15 like the bigger Behemoth. So 10% is when he does that Meteor, and we just kind of set up a person guild that way. But yeah, like, you just have to answer to yourself. So you just, you know, as long as you're okay with like that learning process, I think that's where maybe it can help a little bit, you know? You don't have to tell anyone, you don't have to talk to anyone about it, just be like, okay, I kind of played really bad here, but hey, you know, I'll do better next time, it's okay, you know? Okay. Floor finished, that's 70. That's 80, actually. We're stepping into 81. We have 3 Gelmoran Potsherds. Now, a couple things that will go on with this floor, as we're kind of setting you guys up for this next step. We had a couple areas in which are very common to lose or to die to a run, especially on your first time. Floor 20 is a good one. Actually, no, bring it back. Floor 7 is a good one with the bees, because people died to Final Sting. Floor 20 boss sometimes can get a little interesting, so people died to that boss. Floor 30 is another one. 21 with the mimics is another one that could happen if you spawn a mimic 21. Then from there, it's kind of like it's a little chill. I would say most people kind of get through and keep going by then. I think the Anzu that we dealt with in this set could be a little bit problematic. You might see people die to the Anzu because of kind of reasons I've mentioned. Or you might die to just like really bad traps and everything. So if you're not careful with that. But up until that point, this set is the next big wall for people, specifically the 90 boss. So we're going to go through a couple iterations for that boss. Also on this floor set, again, by now, if you're doing a solo run, you got a guaranteed potsherd at 50. Everyone gets one. Now, you definitely want to transmute that into sustaining potions, because on the 90 boss will be kind of the first time where I would suggest that you actually think about using sustaining potions on the boss. 90 does hit pretty hard a little bit. I mean, you could probably get through without using it, but it still would be highly recommended to have it on your hotbar, because the damage will be a lot higher than the other bosses that you faced up till now. The enemies are not bad at all. It's just the 90 bosses in particular is noticeable. And that boss, like I said, tends to be a little complicated. Some people tend to mess up that boss, so we'll do a couple iterations of the boss to demonstrate it for you, spend a little bit of time on that boss. So it's going on to 81 plus. And let's try it out. Let's get through the floor first, of course. Go. Good song. Open with the strength. Okay, we have one more Kampa. Those guys are sound. Pretty easy to kill up here. Can be a little dangerous later on, but we'll worry about that later on when we get there. The Wamora here are patrols, but they are psyched. Ooh, but we have a Mimic first, so let's handle the Mimic first. And the Chimera is here too. We got a lot of all-stars here already. Okay, Chimera first. Chimera here will not do Dragon or Ram's Voice this low. It's only gonna do breaths right now. So nothing too complicated, but it does have a large HP pool, so it's going to be something that will take a little bit to die. And it is a proximity patrol, so a lot of times you may not be able to get around him if they're walking around here. Palace Bomb, side aggro. Doesn't do anything but auto attacks, however, if you leave this guy around long enough, it will explode and self-destruct. Kind of a little bit similar to the slimes on the earlier floors. Now, the self-destruct you actually may be able to survive. I don't really recommend you lasting that long, just kill it. I mean, if you're a warrior, maybe, you know, okay, whatever, self-destruct. I just don't leave him alive long enough. You don't want your run to end here, you know? Then you have the Wamora, like I was mentioning, it is a sight patrol. It will do a conal, poison dust, probably, there it is. And then just avoid it and then kill it, you're good to go. So there's already a whole bunch of enemies that just showed up here. And again, we're fighting through the hallways like I have been doing for most of the run to play a little bit of safety. This is the version of the donut room for this kind of floor set, because you have something in the middle that's kind of blocking you. I would still say the... oh great. I would still say the traps are still kind of annoying in terms of trying to avoid them. Even if you're hugging the walls, you may still hit some annoying traps, so just bear that in mind. 82. Blind again. See, it had that sound. I heard that sound. 69! Nice! Resolutions are now capped. Vigaroon. The meme dino, as we like to call it. Nothing too crazy about this guy either. Bomb. Another Vigaroon here. Another one more as well. Okay. Dragon. These dragons are going to be one of the first enemies you will encounter that will shoot at you from a distance. So it will shoot at you out of combat. They also do have a lot of HP, so they are very beefy. I mentioned this before. One little bit of a rule of thumb in Palace of the Dead in particular, the bigger the enemy, the higher HP they have. And it is noticeable. Like, you'll probably need like 1 or 2 more GCs to kill something. So that does carry over into these flame dragons. Killing off the bombs, lay bombs. Let me kill off the Bombora too, just so I don't have to deal with it. Because I have to go back and get that rage anyway. Okay, dumping my thing with my macro, my statusoff Transfiguration macro. Got the rage here. Alteration. I'll skip the alteration. You can very well use it if you want to. You're going to be dealing with mimics and Corrigans, but on this run, you'll see me not use it very much until very later floors. Are patrols static or on a timer or something? So in what terms do you mean static? Let me just get a clarification so I can get a good explanation out. I just want to see if I can kind of clarify what you're talking about in terms of your definition of static. Here we have the was it the Gallimimus, which is very basically similar to the raptors that you dealt with earlier. So just call it their cousins. They're just red raptors. Serenity on that first floor. Intuition. I'll ignore it. That another Chimera. That's a Chimera and a Warmora. So just to demonstrate that the Chimera is proximity, but the Warmora is not. Raggle the Chimera. You can see the damage coming. It's a little bit higher, but we're still okay without that sustaining potion right now. So just for the sake of answering the question, I don't know, Jabeta, you want to continue that, but patrols in general are they're just gonna move through the floors. They don't really have a designated pathing. As far as I know, they'll just kind of just decide where they're going. And it is a little random, so it's hard to really predict them. So you said that they fight them in between rooms, so you just have to worry about patrols, obviously. Are there guaranteed spots that spawns? Oh, guaranteed spots that spawn. Okay, no, they just walk through the entire room. So if you look at the map right now in 83, you'll see it's like an L shape. Essentially, you'll just see the patrol basically go from the north room up there to the west room and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now if there is like forks in the rooms, they'll either go left or right depending on whatever they decide to do. But they're basically always in motion, and they just won't stop being in motion. So generally, the good strat to deal with a patrol is that you kill the patrols. Get rid of the patrols so you don't have to deal with them running around. That's one recommendation later on for like 181, where like you have chimeras floating around everywhere. You'd rather just kill the chimeras than have to just wait for them to move on out. But also generally, you just kind of keep an eye on them. One of the really cool strategies that I like to recommend is that if you observe a patrol... Okay, see this patrol? This patrol moving, the ogre that's going in there? So if you see them going into a room, and then like, let's just say about 10 seconds later they come back out of that room, it kind of tells you how big the room is, right? So look at this, watch this patrol right now. He's walking, he stops. He's gonna turn around because that's a dead end. So sometimes it gives you the indication, one, of how big a room can be, and two, you know, like so on and so forth, like the amount of time that it took for them to come back. So if you have multiple patrols and you see it go into a certain room, it kind of gives you that indication of like, okay, so it's a small room, or he's moving, you know, there's only that many rooms that are in the thing, so on and so forth. So it gives you that kind of timing, like mental timing of like, you know, when they're coming back, so on and so forth. Yeah, I have seen a couple people actually put markers on them to try to track them a little bit better, so that's something you could also do if that helps you. I don't typically mark enemies, but you could totally do that. But yeah, like, usually, I mean, a patrol would basically go all the way to one side and then back. So you're not going to expect a patrol to all of a sudden just turn around and just go the opposite direction, right? It's not going to go like random movements. It'll go in a predictable manner to some extent, depending on which direction they're going. Yeah. And it's worthy to know that. I mean, you know, if a patrol is running away from you, I kind of do a little bit of a head count in my brain of like, okay, it might take about 30 seconds for it to come back. Now, something important to note though, if you're in a gloom floor, enemies do have increased movement speed, so they are moving faster as a patrol. So that's something to note because patrols can be a little bit more dangerous if they're moving quicker. But also generally, if you have these sides over here, like, let me just toss down an example here. If you have a patrol moving along the room, like down the middle here, you typically want to go to the ends here, A or B. Okay, so here's a perfect... Thank you for cooperating, sir. So you can fight enemies here, safe from the patrol. So these guys can walk through their business, and then you're going to be able to just kill whatever you need to so that you don't have to deal with them, right? So that's one way to also handle patrols, if you will. You don't have to keep running away from them. You kind of find like a spot that they won't get to, and then just deal with whatever it is. And this is like in an instance where you're fighting something else, and a patrol just happens to walk by. But it does really help when you try to get an understanding of the floor that you're on, and you try to just kind of head count how many patrols there are. Because then you can mentally keep track of like, okay, there's 2 patrols on this floor. Every so often I need to look around and just make sure they're not coming, right? You can at least do that bare minimal. It also helps on the reverse when you don't see a patrol and you check the entire room and you're like, you know what? Clear patrol, don't even have to think about it. And those are the things that can help you. Didn't know about the movement speed in Gloom? Yes, they have. So in Gloom, enemies have increased attack, increased defense, but also move faster. And if anything, the moving faster on a Machinist run is a little detrimental because, you know, for kiting purposes, they're catching up to you faster, so it's a little bit harder to kite. But on that end, the patrols are moving quicker, so they will get to point A to point B way faster than if they didn't have Gloom. Are they sight only? Nope, it depends on the patrol. So that patrol, that Ogre patrol, is proximity. The Chimera earlier is proximity, the Wamora is sight. So it really depends on the enemy. In Palace of the Dead, it gets a little nutty because a couple of them are proximity, which is really nasty to be... Like, a patrol being proximity is just very mean, you know? But I mean, it adds to the difficulty, so what can you say? It makes it more fun. No, auto attacks are exactly the same. They still have the same GCDs, they're just hitting you harder. So they're not attacking faster. Good question there. That's actually something that is not as obvious, but that's a very good question. The worms here are sound. They are not as deadly as the worms later on. They do a conal, then a little bit of a dot on you, but nothing too bad. They also do not shoot at you from afar, so something to note. The scorpions, on the other hand, they do pull you in, so they do function like any other scorpion later on to the floor. They will open with a pull in, followed by a kind of a tank buster a little bit. Right there. A little bit annoying on these floors, because, you know, if you're trying to run away from them, if you're trying to kite away from them, they will just pull you back in, so those are kind of mean. I'm gonna walk to get this chest just to also showcase that this is in fact a sound aggro. Nice strength, I'm gonna use that. Alright, into 86. Another strength, but I'll use it a little later. Until I get off the floor. Eureka are sound enemies. Nothing too special, they just do, I think, a conal or a circle AoE with fire. Right there, that's a conal incinerate. Nothing too crazy. Kill my third raising, which is really nice. I'm gonna arm's length here, but the arm's length is not gonna work on this pull-in. Just to know, just to showcase that. Now, it's interesting about that situation, because the arm's length is supposed to be anti-knockback, and not an anti-knockback cooldown. But the Scorpion pulls you in even though you arm's length. However, if you get a no knockback floor, a no knockback debuff, the pull-in from the Scorpion does not work. It actually doesn't pull you in. It still does. It still goes through the motion, but it doesn't pull you in. So it's a little bit of a unique situation then. And that patrol was proximity. We have a worm here. I'm gonna get to the silver chest too because we need the arm and armor. Got him. Okay. So in that case, I tried to do it so that I had still full HP while that enemy was at low HP. You saw the detonation go off. It did damage to me, but it also killed the enemy. That's one of the special things the silver chest can do. I would definitely say that's a more of an advanced strategy. It's something you may want to practice in terms of timing. You don't want to be lower than 70% because that chest does 70% of your max HP. So if you do it when you're at like 69.9, you are dying. So you have to make sure that you're above 70%. But you also want to make sure the enemy is below 70%, because if you trigger that silver chest, then it will also cause them to die because they are below the threshold. Here we have a Gloom floor, and just for the sake of demonstration purposes once more, if you can look at the enemies right here, first and foremost, the Gloom debuff literally says here, enemy movement speed increased, enemies also deal more damage while taking less damage, and you can also see the buff here, movement speed up. It's not, even though it's a sprint icon, it's not moving at sprint pace, it's just a little bit faster, so that's what the debuff does do because of Gloom. And you can see the buffs on top of their heads. And you can see the dragon shooting at me from afar. I was mentioning these are the first enemies that kind of do that to you. There are going to be more like that, but these are the first instances of this. Little tidbit here. You can actually know the amount of HP an enemy has because of Rage. So watch the amount of damage I hit with the dragon with the Rage. 11,000. Watch the roar. 7,800. So the Rage is doing the full HP of the enemy. And look at the difference of the amount of HP between a worm and a dragon. So I say, the bigger the enemy, the more HP. But it's, I mean, that's a big difference, right? Relatively speaking. Safety, that's a landmine. Familiarize yourself with the icons, that is a landmine. And the landmines will never directly kill you. You can theoretically die to a landmine if it's in combination with something else, but a landmine, unlike a silver chest, will do 80% of your current HP, not your max HP. So you can be at like 2 HP, you hit a landmine, and then it'll just bring you down to 1. It's not gonna kill you. But again, indirectly it can, because if you hit a landmine and they get hit with something, that's a way to die. So something to note. No, Dank, that is not a newbie question. So Dank asks, do you know where the traps spawn? Usually hug the walls to avoid them. What do I recommend do? Wait, let me just make sure I read that correctly. You usually hug the corners to avoid them. What do you yeah, no. So as you can see where the traps are kind of located here, that's one reason we definitely suggest hugging walls and hugging corners as best as you can. It isn't 100% efficient for it to work all the time, but you are avoiding a large amount. Actually, this one in particular, see this area here? This is very tight on the wall, so if you're one step off of it, but look, you're reducing the percentage chance of you hitting a trap by having to hug those walls, you know what I mean? So it's best to definitely do them. You definitely don't want to run down the middle. Now, on the later floors, which I'll discuss when we get there, the traps do theoretically have set positions, in a way. Like, you can actually study them to an extent that you actually know where all the traps are, because they don't have a million spawn points. They have like maybe 4 or 5 spawn points per room. But of course, it's about recognizing the room. It's about, you know, knowing where those points are. So there's a lot of complexity to it if you try to learn where those traps locations are. But for the most part, you're just doing it as a you doing it as a thingy. I need to BRB for a second because I need to do something really fast. So give me a second here. Let's continue. So now we have a no knockback room here. And I was explaining to you how a no knockback actually cancels out the knockback, the pull-in of the claw. So you'll see it demonstrated here. So he's going to pull me in, but it's not going to work. And it's really weird how arm's length doesn't quite apply to the claw. But those pull-ins are really annoying, that's for sure. Psy came back. Okay. Switching. And yeah, that wasn't a new question at all, Danks. It's a really good question. It's something that I know I personally have taken for granted in terms of my own movement. A lot of times, like, I think I've gone through, like, the previous guides and never talked about how I just hug the walls to avoid traps, you know? It's such a simple thing that I do all the time, but it's something that, of course, someone new coming to the content doesn't know, you know? Well, why do I have to hug walls? Why are you doing that? But it's reducing the chance of potentially hitting traps. That's why you're doing it. It isn't 100%, but when you're talking about giving yourself a higher chance of victory, it is giving yourself a higher chance of victory. Unless you just want to deal with traps all the time, which you can't have an answer for all the traps. It's just, you know, it adds complexity to the run. Arm and Armor is climbing up. Again, if you kind of just popped in, we have started my Arm and Armor at 5959. This is a treasure room of BS, with a lot of them shooting at me, so we're not going to deal with that room because the exit isn't there, so we'll just ignore that room for now. Chest would be kind of nice, but I'll just skip it for now. But we did kind of encounter everything on this floor. You got to see everything. The Chimeras come back again. They showed up on the earlier floors, and now they're back again on the later floors. And the dragons are kind of annoying because they have the higher HP pool, but what can you do? Definitely using that sight to avoid any traps here, and you can see more trap locations. So here's another one kind of more down the middle. That's a luring trap, by the way. Ooh, a rage. That's gonna be good. Alright, popping the rage. No problem here. Okay, let's go to the boss. Now let's do a lot of explanation on the boss before I get into that. Again, this boss is a little bit of a popular boss to kill people. I've seen many people die to this boss and talk about how they don't get past the boss. So we're going to describe a lot of things involving Godmother, and hopefully we can explain it as best as we can. Welcome to Godmother. Now, all the bombs, Godmother, Godfather, have set rotations for their bomb locations. Godmother will spawn 2 bombs that you need to kill, presumably, followed by 1 bomb that ideally needs to be parked under the boss to be able to kill the boss, to be able to stun the boss, to stop its big mechanic called Massive Burst. Massive Burst does 99% of your max HP, and for all intents and purposes can potentially kill you. So that bomb you need to park under the boss needs to be put under Godmother, because the bomb will stun Godmother and therefore stopping that big attack. And then you go back into rotation. Couple autos, couple double attacks, couple telegraphs, 2 bombs showing up. So what we're going to showcase here is kind of failing the mechanic a couple times, also showcasing to you guys the locations of the spawns of the bombs. Now, again, pay very close attention to where they spawn, because how you see them now will be exactly how you see them in your run in terms of the order, in terms of how it goes. Also, this is going to be the very first instance that I recommend the usage of sustaining potions. We have 20, we haven't used any of them up until this point. Even with Strength and Steel on, this boss will do a little bit. Also, in addition though, we're going to showcase a couple things that will kind of warrant me to do those heals, and we'll explain it as we go along. So let's Strength and Steel. I will not use a Lust because we kind of want this fight to kind of go a little bit longer. So let's do the pull. The auto attacks that it does and the other damage that it does is kind of whatever, but we'll deal with it. Now, a lot of times I will park the bomb. I will park this boss in a location that is kind of ideal to where these enemies are going to start to spawn. We use our first sustaining potion there, which is perfectly fine. You're gonna see the first ad directly under the boss. This location is a static location. It'll be here every single time. It is a gray bomb. You're gonna kill it first, because otherwise it does burst, and that's gonna do damage to you. Perfect timing. Now, the next bomb that's gonna spawn is around here. This is about the middle of the arena. It's about where that sap fired off, so it'll be around in this location. Now, for the sake of demonstration purposes, we are going to let that bomb do its thing, and we're going to fail the mechanic, and you'll see the amount of damage that we are going to take. So watch where the bomb is located over here. Right there. That's about the middle of the arena, so you can see a good spot over there. I'm gonna focus target the bomb right now so I can see the thing. This burst will do roughly 80% of my max HP. It's not going to kill me, and I believe it won't kill you even if you don't have steel on. But honestly, you really should have steel. So this thing's gonna go off. Also, the secondary bomb, the bomb you need to park under the boss, is going to be in this location right over here. Right there, boom. Now, ideally, we kind of keep it in that location right there, because it'll do the thing, it'll stun the boss, boom. You want to watch your ricochet. Do not ricochet, because the ricochet will hit that bomb, and it will push the bomb over. And that'll be super bad, so don't do that. That's one rotation of the fight. So if you've made it this long, and the boss isn't dead, because actually you can kill the boss by now with Lust and full damage. The next bomb that spawns will be roughly in this area, right when the boss is coming in. It's going to be roughly in the northeast section, followed by the southwest section over here. So we'll showcase that right now. First bomb coming out. We will kill it and respect it. Oh, I was off. It was the northwest section. That's perfectly fine. No big deal. We'll do our damage, dump the damage in. Boom. Okay. So now, you're gonna expect a secondary bomb, which I believe will be more south-ish. I could be a little bit wrong, but again, these are static positions, so you run this content 10,000 times, those bombs will spawn in exactly the same rotation every single time that you do this content. I'm gonna wait for the next bomb to come out here. There it is. It is on the southwest section here. So we're gonna kill this bomb. Alright, now, we are going to fail the next mechanic on purpose so I can show you what happens to do if you were to just all of a sudden fail the mechanic. So, traditionally, if you're not parked in the right spot, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be hitting this bomb to push it into the boss like this. Boom. So ideally, that's exactly what you want to do. But let's say you fail this mechanic and you keep pushing it too far. Oh no, it's bad. You want to make sure your HP is perfectly capped here. Because again, 99% damage isn't 100%. Make sure your HP is completely up. If you have Pox on, maybe remove it. We're going to take the big hit here. Boom. We're still alive. We heal back up. Perfectly fine. So that's one other way to bypass this mechanic if you were to fail it miserably and just like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, that's one thing that you can do to avoid that mechanic. So, I've heard of a lot of people dying in a multitude of ways. A lot of people die to Massive Burst because they don't do that mechanic correctly in terms of pushing the bomb into the boss. If they don't position the boss, pre-position, or if they just like kick the bomb like too far or something. That's been probably the most things that I've seen people die on. But that's how you do it. There's the multiple ways of handling that boss if things were to go wrong or right or whatever it might be. Again, remember that the bomb locations are static. So you can just look at the video and just basically copy-paste and boom, it's always going to be in the same spot. Alright, and that's 90, guys. Ricochet has killed me in 190 maybe 3 times. That's why Henry, I know in my video, and I'm probably gonna do it again, I'm gonna be like, no Ricochet, no Ricochet. I'm gonna verbally say, no Ricochet, no Ricochet. Like, you want to sound like a crazy person, but look, if you got a 15-hour run on the line, I think it's okay to sound like a crazy person, right? Just putting it out there, it's like it's okay to sound like a crazy person. We're gonna be stepping into 91. One thing that's gonna be important is that the difficulty spike will be a lot higher. I am going to go in with the minimal 15 sustaining potions that I have. I will refresh these after this set. We've picked up 3 potions so far. One at 50 and one at we will pick one up at 100, and we picked up 2 along the way. But we'll work with the 15 we have now, again, kind of showcasing the minimal amount. We're going to be using quite a lot on specifically 100, but we're going to try to get through 91 to 100 without it. Enemies will hit a little bit harder here. It will be a little bit more dangerous to fight things with like 2 or more, especially with our lower arm and armor. So something to mind as you're climbing. But if you just do single pulls, you play a little bit carefully, you'll be getting through a-okay, and we'll talk about the enemies as we go in. But 100, floor 100 is going to be a little spicy with the boss, and we'll try to explain that boss. I'll also do that boss in like a very, very safe method. Typically, how I do the boss nowadays is that I'll do 1 lust, 1 resolution. But here, I'm probably going to use all 3 resolutions just to showcase a really, really safe method. You can do it optimally, you can do it differently, you can do it, you know, whatever it might be. But we'll play with the really safe one just so we can get you guys through the floor, right? So we can get into focus mode. Let's talk about this run. Let's go into the floor. Also, hey, I may recommend starting up some food. I haven't used food up until now, but I would say food is not too bad. In terms of food, the highest you want to go for is 540, because anything above 540 doesn't matter, but anything below 540 you're going to start missing in terms of stats. You can use your regular raid food if you want to. Preferably, I like to go with direct hit determination, something that the community has kind of liked in terms of their stats. It could get more complicated than that, but just to keep it simple. If you have your traditional raid food, if you're a machinist main, just do whatever raid food you have. If anything, the HP up is actually more important than anything else, but hey, the stats do help a little bit. So we're going to use some melon pie here, which I do want to actually help. Now, if you're a free trial player and you're looking at this video, your food options are probably trash, or you have to level a crafter. Don't worry about it. We've cleared. We have multiple people who've cleared on a free trial, and I've cleared on a free trial where food was non-existent, and we cleared no problem. So food definitely isn't something that is a carry or is something that you need to have. It's nice, but you don't need to do it if you're in that situation. All right, let's go. And just to note, we did start at 59.59 on the arm and armor, so you're seeing us at 72.70 right now. That's why we have a lower bit, because we did start this one at a lower arm and armor. And again, once again, note that we have 15 sustaining potions on us based on kind of a starting kit that I wanted to start with. So we're going to get through with a minimal amount of sustaining potions. Also on this floor, we're definitely going to be kind of being a little bit more safer in terms of our pulls. I will be conservative on my potions. You're going to see a lot of kiting on this floor to kind of stay alive, etc. So you'll see a little bit more of the real machinist in terms of the run, etc. Now, the first enemy we pulled was a Wraith. It's a Wraith Patrols. They're back again like they are like about 50 floors ago. Do nothing different. They do the same moveset that they did earlier. Mummies are also the same. So they are proximity enemies, and they do their same rotten bandages. Now, the new enemies you have here are the Palace Swarms. The Palace Swarms are actually very interesting. Every hit they do will do a little bit of an on-drain, so it'll heal themselves back if they hit you. So these fights are actually really annoying. They are sound aggro, so you actually don't really have to fight these at all. And honestly, I would recommend it, because that heal just can get very, very annoying. There's also some weird timing mechanic that can happen. If you are a Rage and you do a Swarm, they can actually heal back at like a really perfect GCD, and you don't actually kill them. So you want to be careful if you're doing a range to get the Swarm. It's very hard to duplicate, so just take my word for it. The Roselets here are very, very fun to fight. They attack from afar as long as you stay away from them. Their auto attacks are very slow, so they're very, very ideal to deal with if you are on a range class, because they don't do that much damage. They are kind of a little treacherous on a melee because they will also do melee attacks on top of their range attacks. But on a range class, they don't get to melee because they're not close enough. So they're really good pulls to do. Going into this room to see what's over here. I could use those silver chests, but we're okay. I'm gonna go. There's a lot of crap in here. Alright, we're going into the next floor. Let's do it. Okay, almost. I almost forgot about the swarm. He's like around the corner. I'm gonna pop an affluence here. Okay, again, it is sound if that gives you a little bit of proof of that one. Going into 92. Witching can be useful if we get a little spicy on some pulls. Got the strength back, which is fantastic. Mummy going down first with the reassemble drill. Purity. Swarm. 2 swarms. We're gonna ignore the swarms. Resolution. Okay, so one thing to note about resolution. Resolution does bonus damage to undead enemies, or by definition of the game, Ashkin. So the mummies, the wraiths are all undead. So if we were to resolution them, we will do some bonus damage. We will probably one-shot them. Funny enough, the game didn't give me any, so I can't show it to you right now, but that is what they do with the resolution. Now, it's a little bit trickier to use on a floor like this because you do have enemies that are not, in fact, undead here. So trying to navigate around and use it correctly can be a little, you know, a little annoying. But hey, a free kill's a free kill, so... On each floor, does the room you spawn in have any traps, or is it like a safe zone? It is a safe zone, and you can indicate that because there's a flag on the map. You can't actually see because there's a chest in there, but there's a flag on the map indicating that that was where you spawned. Now, worth noting, Dank, is that you are contending with respawns. In Palace of the Dead, things do respawn every so often. I believe on this floor, you're looking at about a 1-minute respawn on enemies, so every minute something is respawning. Something can respawn in the spawn room, so it's not 100% safe, but it is safe of traps at the very least. So at least you don't have to worry about traps. Not out yet. Well, the next floor is flight. I gotcha. Now you're gonna notice that it is a little bit easier to avoid the traps on these type of rooms. There is still some traps that are really annoying, but I may avoid quite a lot of traps on this looking floor set, based on the layout of it. So depending on the floor set, sometimes traps are just easier to avoid. Again, we are hugging walls, hugging corners to make that happen. Alright, let's go. Next floor is flighted. Only way to lose Aetherpool is by spending them to yeah, exactly, to do to a transference of Aether Grips, which is what I did at the beginning of stream. I did it on purpose so I could start at a lower Aetherpool. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I see now. Yes, yeah. So I started the run. The raising, by the way, very good. I started the run by dipping my Aetherpool from 99 to 59, so I did it on purpose. My whole thing here is to kind of lower the entry of trying to do Necromancer. And a lot of people, like, you know, maybe some people don't have 99.99, and it's gonna be a lot harder nowadays to try to get in with a party to level that armor. So I kind of want to showcase, like, hey, you don't have to be 99.99 to start your journey. You know, to do the prog, etc. You don't have to be there. So we have our Raising Pomander up. Basically, with the Raising Pomander, I can die now, and we don't fail the run. We don't actually cancel our ability to get Necromancer. It's like a get out of jail free card. It allows us to get back up by expending that Pomander. Now, common question that I hear about Raising. It only stays for this instance. So if I clear this instance, which we should, we clear 100. When I step into 101, I don't have that raising anymore. So it only works for this instance. Now it's the entire 10 floors, not just for one singular floor. It is the whole 10 floors. So you'll see that icon on item effects, the white icon over there. That is the raising. So if you're a fan of, like, you know, old school Final Fantasy games that have re-raise, you know, like they have the halo on their head, think of it like that. That it'll last the entire battle, or in this case, the entire instance. Very, very useful Pom. I feel like, you know, we were having a little bit of a discussion earlier about deep dungeon anxiety, about emotions, so on and so forth. The raising is one thing personally that it does calm me down. Like, I tend to play better and they're more riskier, but I tend to play a little bit more, more comfy when I do have the raising on, because I know I have a little bit of an insurance on me. This Hippogriff, by the way, is a sight aggro. It doesn't do anything overly special. It can do a double attack here, but it's not too bad at all in terms of that. It is a little bit deadlier later, but we'll worry about that later. Being disconnected does count as a death. Even if I had a re-raise on, the re-raise won't save me from a disconnect. It's one of the biggest annoying tragedies that I don't think they'll ever fix, but I guess in one way you have to ask, do they see it as a problem, right? I mean, maybe they don't see it as a problem, so nothing happens, but... Alright, the arm in armor's getting there. 71, 73, not too bad. Walking here, the Roselet is sound, so we can walk past them, no problem. $74 now, we're getting up there. And as we get higher and higher into the floors, the higher chance that those silver chests will give us an upgrade. In 101 plus, it is guaranteed to get an upgrade when we get to a silver chest, unless it explodes, or unless I'm already capped. And that's one reason why starting at a lower arm and armor is not a terrible idea, because the chances of you getting upgrades are going to be pretty good by the time you get to the harder floors. A lot of hippogriffs here. Alright, Chorus Patrol. When I pull them, they will jump at me with a gap closer. They're a little bit tricky and annoying to deal with because of that gap closer. You definitely don't want to deal with multiple of them on this floor, in particular when you're being conservative with your sustaining potions. You know, you could pop a steal to make this a little bit better. Again, my arm and armor is lower, you know, so we are working with a little bit of a lower arm and armor, so it's gonna look like we're getting hit pretty hard. Now, the other chorus enemy, which is not a patrol, they don't jump at you like the other ones, but they do a different set of moves here. So there is a difference. They are named the same, but they look a little bit different. This course has, well, no, this course has the same. Later on, the course will have 2 heads, but that one in particular only has 1 head. But there is a patrol version, and there is a non-patrol version, so you have to watch out for that. They don't do the same thing. Alright, into the next floor. Looking pretty good so far. I will pull this Hippogriff because he's looking at the Aetherpool. Intuition again. We just go into the next floor as is. Looking pretty good. Into 95. Hoping I get a resolution to demonstrate the undead, otherwise we'll just do it on the boss floor. Okay, gonna heal first here. Ooh. 78, we're okay here. 73. Brightens. Armor brightens. We got +2 on that one. Just keeping away from him with the kiting. That's how we do our mitigation. Very well done there. I will pull the Hippogriff, because that Hippogriff might be getting to the exit. So we're going to take care of it because it was riding along the exit. A good habit to go for in terms of like clearing the exit. You kind of want to take care of the enemies that seem like they're riding along the exit because they could come back to it. So the Aetherpool has not been bad in terms of this run. We started at 59-59 and we're currently at 75-73. In floors 1 to 50, we pretty much only got like +3, +2. I think I was like 62 to 61 when I got to 50. And then we've gotten the rest up on its way. I would say I got most of my upgrades like on this particular floor. This knight is a proximity enemy. Does have some double attacks, so is a little bit of a danger, but not terrible. Just kind of more annoying because it can get in the way. Like, cool. This is again intuition. Oh, fortune. Wait, did I use the fortune? I didn't even use the fortune. Okay. Sometimes I forget to use the palms even though when they're right in front of me. Pulling this Roselette because it is going to be easier to deal with. There is a patrol that is floating behind me, I believe, so I need to just remember that that's existing there. Good thing I did Ricochet because I would have clipped the Hippogriff from that pull right there. Okay. Let me get the Hippogriff, because it looks like I'll need another pull at the very least. Probably another one after that. We'll see. I know there's a Roselette there that I think I left alone, so I can kill that if needed. That's the patrol that I left alone. I will just pull it. Tactician here just to mitigate some damage. This thing does hurt a little bit, especially with a little bit of the lower arm and armor. Oh, still not out. No, I will do with this one. Okay, good. To the next floor, 96. Going away pretty well. Alright. Silver. 78, very good. Flares! So, if you don't know, with arm and armor, there's 3 different levels that you get. You can get Flickers, which is +1, you can get Brightens, which is +2, and this is the second instance in which we got Flares, which is +3, so we jumped up to 78. That's really, really good. It's very rare. I don't see flares very often, but it is a thing that you can get. So you do get a little bit of RNG in terms of those upgrades. And again, that's yet another reason, kind of, you know, explaining how going with a lower arm and armor is not a terrible idea. You don't necessarily have to be 99.99. While it does help and gives you something less to worry about. Okay, I'm gonna pull the Gubu next because I kind of skipped on that enemy. The Gubu is gonna be kind of very similar to the other Gubus that you fought before. They just do basically beatdown. This one, though, is not a patrol, so he's not moving around. But no different than really the other Gubus that you've encountered up to this point. Yeah, the 3rd flare today. So we got really lucky with that one. And they do hurt quite a bit. They are hitting me quite a bit, so giving them a little bit of respect here. That course is the one I pulled earlier. I am gonna pull it to get to the chest excess, but I will pull this Knight as well, because I do want to get to these chests. And I do note, like, it does look like the damage coming in is a lot. It is generally, even if you had 99.99, which, by the way, 94 would have been where your arm and armor would finally uncap, about 94-95. So if you have 99.99, this is where it's actually at its full power. Where every floor behind that, it is trying to sink down to a lower one. So something to note on that front. But even with 99 armor, this thing would still hit you. I mean, you'll have a little bit more HP, maybe like I think 2k more HP about that. But these things do hit hard, so... Okay, now, The dragon here, I believe, will also shoot at you from afar like the previous version of the dragon. They are also gonna be beefy, but their attacks are not too bad. A little bit more tolerable. They're just gonna do a little bit of a double attack here. Just like that, Dark Thorn. Nothing too crazy, but they are beefy, so... And we're trying to be very, very conservative on our potions here. This thing is doing quite a good number on me right now. Just because he's lasting very long, and I don't have another heal. So do you want to be a little bit careful here with the next pull, because I don't have any backup heals? I will bypass this knight for now. Waiting for some of my cooldowns to come in. We have another knight, and we have a Gubu and another knight. So the knight... a couple of these knights definitely have to go to clear up the exit. Strength came in, good. Okay, we can do the Gubu. I'm gonna Tactician here. 9. Okay, taking care of this knight. My heals are coming back in, so that's great. Ooh, the yellow key. A lot of the community likes to call it the piss key, because, you know, you can tell. I like to call it 50 Shades of Orange, that also works too, but it's just an evil key, you know? It looks like you're gonna be out, and the key's like, nah, not quite yet. You know, a little bit more evil. $97. So starting at 97, you're going to see basically a vast majority of the enemies become all undead. 96, you still have some remnants of some of the enemies that aren't actually undead, but this is where the undead will start to show up. So if we get any free resolutions, it's a really good spot to go for, because you can use it on everything, and they're gonna die very quickly, if not by a one-shot. So, we'll see if we get any resolutions to showcase that, because I'm planning to go with the very safe strategy on 100, which will use 3 resolutions, but we'll see how this goes. Okay. And also, this is going to be a tricky one, because the ability down is going to lower my kill speed, but we'll play the kiting game to survive. We have the return of the Gravekeepers over here, which again, they are actually pretty... you know, they're gonna hit pretty hard with their double attacks, but we'll pull one. No, actually, this is like the last set you're gonna see a bunch of undead enemies right now, and then it kind of repeats. The enemies that you saw 1 to 100 will now cycle back again, almost the same exact order in which you saw them. So the amount of undead you see now, you'll see back in 191 plus. You'll see a couple spattering between 131 and 141. But yeah, you'll see most of the undead here in 191. After that, it'll just be back to regular enemies. It's more on the latter floors than really the rest of the floors. Oh, that's delicious. I'm not gonna go over there. And we're being very conservative, very kind of cautious here. Not going too crazy in this run, just trying to get you guys through. In other versions of this run, a resolution fortune would be a really good play there, because you have so many kills that you can get so many palms, but you know, it's a little bit of a risky move to try to go for that. If you're comfortable with a play like that, hey, go for it. You know, it's going to be an awesome play, going to get you a lot of points, going to get you a lot of chests. But for the sake of this run, we are not going to be doing that for now. Gonna pull the Knight here because he is going to be less threatening than both the Chorus and the Gravekeeper, because I can really stay away from this guy. Again, being conservative about our sustaining post usage, saving the 15 that we have for the boss. After this set, we will then use, we will look into actually getting more sustaining potions, because I've gotten a couple potshers and I will get one killing the boss here. Now, this patrol can go either one direction, right or left, so we're gonna see which way it goes. It actually was trying to fake me out, but it went to its right, so we'll go this way. I don't actually want to fight that currently, just because of its damage output, so we're going to go to the next room. Found the exit. The Gubu's gonna hurt, but I have most heal, so I'll pull the Gubu here. The macro that I'm using to cancel Pomanders is the one you see on my top bar with an X. I have a command in the macro, which I can showcase to you after I beat this floor. It is called, / status transfiguration off. So it is going to be this one right over here. Status off transfiguration. That is the macro that will kick you out of the lust and the rage and the angel if you use it. That's the one macro I have for that specific reason. Ooh, a rage! Interesting situation. I have a fortune already. We'll do the rage already. I'm not gonna go to that treasure room though. We'll kill a couple things. That's really fortunate to get that. Also, just make sure that the exit is clear here. These are all proximity, by the way, if I have failed to mention. Every single one of these is proximity, which kind of adds a little bit of spice to it, because you can't really avoid them too well. One of the things that adds to the difficulty of this run is like pretty much everything from this point on, aside from them being undead, and aside from the Gravekeepers, they're all proximity. Gravekeepers are sound if I failed to mention that as well. So you have to kind of navigate and pick your enemies that way in terms of like clearing off a path to the exit. Always wondered how you were so fast with transformations. Yes, so I don't do a mouse. I don't play with a mouse. But I do have that macro on the top and the 6, the giant X in my top macro. Well, actually, the Dark Dragons are not proximity. They are later, but in this 4 set, they are not actually proximity. So, 2 enemies that are in proximity, but are undead. So that dragon will shoot at you from afar, but I will wait for him to move so I can get this chest here. Intuition, great. Going to the next room. Gravekeeper, let's pull him. Again, all they do is a double attack. They are going to hit pretty hard, respectively, compared to everything else. But as long as we kind of keep away, it'll be okay. Oh my god, can I stop missing? That'd be great. That's blind for you. The Gubu. Big use of my potions there. I'm using a lot of max potions to give me that extra heal. Especially while mitigating the usage of our sustaining potions. We can definitely get away with a lot of kiting. We can get away without using a lot of sustaining potions. With the mouse, you can right-click the transformation to cancel it. Yes, you can, but I do actually still recommend probably utilizing the transformation macro, only because you could run the risk of actually canceling something that you didn't intend to, because you could cancel your strength and steel, which I've done before. So something to keep in mind. I mean, look, whatever is comfortable with however you play the play, but in my opinion, if you got a hotbar space, it may not be a terrible idea, even as a mouse user, to utilize the macro. And you could argue that you know, you have a 60 kit, so you probably have buttons that you're not using, so you can like replace one if you want to. That's my recommendation, but you don't have to do that. Gotta be careful here because this thing is gonna hit pretty hard. Oh, that's gonna be a problem. I'm gonna witching this because of the pool. So first reaction was to witching there to kind of mitigate the damage here. Again, we are kind of low on HP just because we're not running the sustaining potion, so we're trying to get through without it. As a review, chickens do like about half damage from their original full damage when they're transformed, so they're still gonna chunk you for a little bit, but it could be worse, is the gist of that. I can sneak this chest, I think. Strength! Good, as we walk into 99, very good. Did get a resolution to demonstrate to you guys what we can do on the enemies, but trust that you can use a resolution to do bonus damage. You'll see it on the boss. It'll make more sense on the boss if we don't end up actually using a resolution here. But... And I might actually affluence just so I can maybe force out a resolution for the demonstration, but we'll see. Because I want to hold 3 resos for the boss, because we're going to be doing an exceptionally safer strategy on the boss just to make it a little bit straightforward. We are blinded again, it looks like. Oh, abilities. Sorry, my bad. No abilities. 79, 75. For the night. Wow, I affluenced and I'm not getting any chests. Shocker. Going the Goobu. Snuck through those other enemies there. Oh, that is a treasure room. Okay. I think I'll actually rage here. Let's do a rage here. And a sight so I can avoid traps. Okay, so we're gonna rage. Just because that treasure room is on top of the exit, and we're still early on the run that we can probably pick up yet another rage, and I'm not really gonna need it later on. So we'll burn it here for the possibility of chests coming in. And that's my decision on that one. And especially because the ability downs here, I mean, my other option was the Serenity. But I do value Serenities pretty highly, and a lot of times, like, it's hard to find an opportunity to rage on the lower floors still. You can definitely find some of the higher floors, but the lower floors, it could be a little bit more difficult. So the rage was the option as well. There seems to be a lot of silver chests, which is really nice. Look at that damage coming in. Definitely using the aggro to my advantage. I'm kind of aggroing them and letting them come to me for that pull. So I don't have to run into the middle of the room just to get everything by accident. HP's good. Pop in this chest. 76. Check all the other ones. Serenity. Strength. Using the strength here. Nice couple of blue chests on that one. Alright, so we're going to do this fight in a little bit of a safe strategy here. You're going to have 3 sets of ads show up. You're going to get at 90, at 69-ish, and at 38-ish. And each set of ads we're going to counter with a resolution. Because basically what happens, and I'll showcase to you guys what happens when you don't use the resolution here. Alright, so the first set of ads are coming in at 90% here. When we kill these ads here... Also, I am using sustaining potions here because the fight is going to be a little bit tough. Okay, you're gonna watch the ads come back in soon. So now they have regenerated here, so you'll see the ads going in like that, so that's what makes it a little bit tough. So the way to handle this is to utilize a resolution. So we're gonna resolution here. And it will kill it one time, but you have to double tap. So it's gonna die once. You do a double tap, it removes the body out of the arena here. And you'll see this whole like animation thing, and now they're gone permanently. So it's important to do a double tap on those ads, okay? So there's one thing to bear in mind, especially with this one. So that's the first set of ads showing up. The next set of ads is showing up at 69. We'll do the same exact method. Now, something that I like to joke about. I don't know if anyone watched like zombie movies or whatever, but think of why they tell you like you always have to double tap the zombies to kill them. You know, never single tap, always double tap. And the rule applies to this as well, that you need to double tap to kill these guys so that they can remove them off the field. Ads coming in, I guess it's about 64. I thought it was 69, but it's about 64. Yeah, it's 64. So we're going to do the second resolution. Again, this is a safer strategy. Usually when I go about this strategy, I do one resolution, one lust. But we'll do the second one here. And again, ads are gone, boom, they're gone. Don't have to deal with them anymore like earlier when they raised in. That's something that I've had other people, they have actually died to this boss because they got overwhelmed with the ads. And my very first question to them was, did you hit them twice? Always hit them twice, and that's how you handle it. Last set of ads coming in here is going to be at the 39 mark, and it'll be 3 ads instead of 2. They'll be spawning down the middle, but then also the boss will do another move called Doom, which is a gigantic conal that will cast Doom on you, but it is very easy to dodge. You don't want to get hit with it, otherwise you're basically going to die, because it is a Doom cast, so that's one thing to concern yourself with. So ads are coming in a little bit here. Alright, so we're gonna pop into the resolution. Now wait for the Doom to come off before we tap the ad. Doom is coming out here, and then we do the ads here. So tap 1 to kill them. Tap 2 to remove their bodies. Watch the light animation. After that, you're in the clear. The rest of the fight is pretty simple. No more ads are showing up. You've got to see what the boss has to offer. You just have to make sure that you don't kite too far away from the boss, because that Doom is very large. So I would kind of recommend, if you want to kite to mitigate some damage, to go in like a little bit of a medium circle, like around the medium of the arena, not like a far, wide NASCAR kind of thing. Here we can kind of mitigate our potion usage. We only use 4 sustaining potions, which is pretty good on this fight. So it's pretty low on the usage of it. But we are trying to respect the the Doom cast, which is right there. Again, if we were really far away from the boss, that would be so annoying. This boss is beefy. One thing to note historically in Endwalker, this boss was harder in Endwalker than it had been in its previous iterations. So it has become a little bit of a difficult boss. Like, he is a little bit beefier, but his ads do hit hard. Like, the ads, I remember back before Endwalker and Shadowbringers and so on and so forth, the ads were kind of pushovers, you know? They existed, they were kind of doing their thing. But man, if you get 7 ads on you, you will die, especially on Machinist. If you cannot corral the 7 ads, you are gonna die. So it definitely is to your benefit to deal with those ads as ideally as possible. Again, the 3 resolutions is like the safest way to do it. You can probably get it down to 2 if anything, but a lot of times I can't actually get it down to 1, so, you know, whichever you're most comfortable with. But for a first-time runner, highly recommend that you at least try to do 3 before you start getting a little bit more comfortable. Note that killing the 100 boss gave us a +1/+1 in our arm and armor, so we got 81 now and 79. Also, we are going to get our first instance of the scorecard, which is up here. This score actually could get uploaded to Lodestone. There is an official Lodestone leaderboard, but the Machinist runs are so oversaturated, your score is not going to show up unless you're in like the new service for Dynamis or like Shadow or something. Also, we get a potsherd for clearing the run. So that's something that is really cool to see, that you get the free potsherd. Now, what we're going to do here, before we kind of take a tiny break here, I'm going to exchange the 4 potsherds. So now we've gone from 11 to 91. We got 2 on the climb up, and then we also picked up the 2 guarantee, one from 50 and one from 100. So our potsherds are now pretty good at 91 plus. Lastly, for here, I'm going to showcase this one, because this is definitely going to be something that people are somewhat curious about. It's the Lonely Explorer title. It's a little convoluted in the way they explain it, but here it is. This is the title right here. Clear the first to 100 floors of Palace of the Dead and record a score on 101 or below. It's really weird wording, because we just did 1 to 100, but you do not obtain that title now. You clear 100, you don't get the title. You have to either die on specifically 101 or any floor after that, or clear 200 and then you get Lonely Explorer. Now, the sad part is, if you disconnect, it doesn't count. So you don't get the title. So you have to like legitimately die and get a scorecard. It literally, it says record a score. And of course it says or below. I mean, you know, the number goes up, but then you're going down. So there's, you know, the wording to me is just always weird. But anyway, that's the details of the run. I mean, it says it there. It's just, logistically, it's just really kind of annoying. I mean, honestly, you should just get it at floor 100 for soloing, but whatever, that's how they have it. In case you're like curious of like, oh, why didn't I get the title? And what does this mean? That's what that means. This attempt will showcase how I handle the floor 100 boss using only one resolution. Generally speaking, I will leave the first and second set of ads alive until about 46%, use resolution, then kill and remove their bodies. I will stay in resolution until the last set of ads show up at 39% and wipe the last 3 ads in the same resolution. The idea here is that you will use one resolution and time it so it will stay on for all 3 sets of ads. We're at the 100 boss. We are doing... No, I didn't mean to do that. We are doing a scenario here where we're going to try to down this boss if we had 0 resolution. And this is an extremely rare situation. I will say 99 out of 100 times you'll pick up at least 1 resolution. But we're gonna try to go through this boss without any, and there's this boss is actually really hard to try to do without any resolution. It's like super not recommended to even do it normally, even if you have resolution. Like minimum, I would at least try to do 1 resolution, but we're going to try to do it here and see how we do. The reason why this becomes a problem is because this boss will spawn ads at 90%, at 64%-ish, and at 39%-ish. And those ads, when you kill them, will re-raise, like Necromancer, you know, it's like undead, they get back up. Your resolution are meant to actually delete the corpses, to actually remove the corpses out of the field. That's what resolution is supposed to do. So now we're in a scenario where we don't have those resolutions. Our game plan for this right now is that we're going to try to stagger the kills. Now, what's going to be good is that you will want to have a lot of sustaining potions here, and ideally you kind of want to be capped arm in arm too. Like, you don't want to be really lower than the cap here, because it will make the fight even harder. There's going to be a lot of kiting, but we're also going to try to stagger the ad kills as best as we can to kind of offset some of the damage, because they have a strong potential of actually hopping in and jumping at you at the same time if they come back all at the same time. So we're going to be trying to stagger these kills out. We're going to down this first one, get a G-City in, drop the second one, so we can at least start stagger here. So the first 2 are not going to be a problem, but these ads do have gap closers. They will jump at you, and that's where a lot of the damage is going to come in. By the time we're even going to get the second set of ads, you'll see the amount of damage that's going to come at me. It's not going to be pretty, and it's not going to be fun. First one's coming in, so we'll try to kill him out. I'm gonna wait for my GC here. Again, we're staggering these kills so that damage can come in kind of in different stages. Eventually, when you get more ads showing up, you do want to maybe do a bunch of AoEs and then kind of kill them one at a time, but you do want to avoid killing them simultaneously. So we're going to maintain this. You're going to see the next set of ads showing up at about 64-ish%. So we're getting closer and closer to it. They'll start doing Summon Darkness as a priority. Kill this ad right now. You'll see we do have it nice and staggered currently, but of course it'll get a little bit more complicated once we, Blast Punch is that kind of tank buster, but again, that's only one doing it. Wait till we have 4 of them or 7 of them coming at us. Alright, so next set of ads +2 are coming in. I'm going to try to kill this off now since we have an opportunity. This is a much longer fight. Also be careful with your Strength and Steel. Make sure that your Strength and Steel is going to be good, because this is going to be a long fight. Staggering these kills in. The other ads coming up in a bit. And this is not going to be a good... like, you really want to have resolution here. So hopefully you didn't burn it, like, doing other things or something like that. But try to keep at least 1 for this fight as best as you can. Buttery Flow, that's the jump right there. As long as I keep them staggered, won't be terrible. But we're only dealing with 4 ads at the moment. Okay, now we're at 54%. Next set of ads are coming in at about 38%-ish. Oh boy, gap was. Keeping that potion rolling, you're gonna use a lot of potions on this fight. After this, we're probably gonna be looking at trying to do 2 kills at once, as opposed to just 1 at a time, because the last set of ads will be 3 coming out. I do have my spread shot on my hotbar. There's the last set of pads, here we go. This will be great. Gonna actually try to keep a couple alive here while we try to maintain. So we're gonna try to keep maybe 2 or 3 dead, and then kind of alternate as they come up. This might actually be a pretty good strategy here. Okay, they're done. They're coming up, so let's stagger. You can see my HP getting a little spicy right now. Just a little spicy right now. Keeping the potion rolling, I'm gonna have to drop these guys. Staggering's kind of doing well, and we're maintaining the AoE. A couple are coming back up, we're gonna down to 2 right now. Maintaining spread shot here. I still have my second wind available. Gonna keep it ready just in case this gets a little spicy. Ads are coming back up again. Okay, they're staggering really nice, and we're maintaining some AoE damage here. Might have a chance to breathe. Oh, that's a lot of damage coming in. My max potion's coming back up again. Do not drop that potion. I gotta drop these now. I'm trying to get that reassembled drill off, but... Potion, potion, potion. Dropping that guy. Gonna maintain the AoEs here. Still have my second wind. Oh, steals off. Oh. Come on. Yeah, that's why I was mentioning, making sure that steel's back on. Gonna drop a couple here. May drop him. Dude, the fight's so long that the steel drop. Okay, we might have it a little bit under control here. Boss is almost gone. Push it back up. Okay, I might be going to finish the boss. Okay, yeah, that's a great fight. Try to have a resolution, for the love of God. That is just too... That's such a hard fight without a resolution, let me tell you. So, like, if you're looking at possible, it's possible. It's just... God, I hope you get a resolution. It's a lot of ads. So, usually what we do is that you use a Pomander of Resolution to remove those ads, right? That's the strategy, especially solo. So the problem you're running into with that fight right now, even though we were staggering the kills with the ads, they were still coming up so quickly, and it's like I can't put all that damage onto the boss because I have to get the ads drop. As you saw, once you're having like even like 5 of the ads available, the amount of damage was just almost too much for my sustaining potion to go in. So that's what makes it really tricky. And then yeah, the steel fell off. I mentioned, like when my steel was at 4 minutes, I mentioned we gotta make sure the steel was not gonna drop, and the steel dropped. I saw the buff go off, I'm like, oh god, and then I was mishitting it. I guess that was a good example of that, but yeah, I mean, look, if you're just talking about possible, that's one way, but it is not a clean strat at all. It's just not advisable one bit.